All right. Order in the back. Hey! Everybody come back.
Crossing your arms, we're in the back.
All right. We have the agenda up. It is 1:30, so we are back in session. I do recognize some people. Ms. Glass?
Before I forget, I want to congratulate Shannon Thomason on becoming mayor. And I recently learned that David Shaw is the former mayor of Tom Lee.
Oh, wow. All right, with that said, where's Mr. Valdivia? Tony? Tony is stepping this way. Okay, while he's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and pull up your report. This is going to ignite. You guys will bear with me.
He's got a PowerPoint as well.
I don't think I received that. Do you have it?
I got it on my laptop. I can email it to you.
Ah, there we go. I heard you have a PowerPoint? Oh, no, sorry, never mind.
Yes. It's on.
Okay. Oh, I thought you don't have it on flash drive. There goes the PowerPoint.
Oh, we had a problem.
Oh, you just want to plug in the... Yeah. Well, if you do that, we'll have a lot of
Yeah, I don't have it. Oh, you don't have that. Oh, because I'm about to send the, give it to Jay Wolford.
If I was thinking I should have flash drive.
We'll work through it.
That's right.
Hope everybody had a good and uneventful lunch.
We'll know within the hour.
True, very true.
Point of order. There it is.
What's up? Yeah. Do you want to start talking and I'll get the presentation up and running, or do you need the presentation first?
Yeah, I can start a little bit and introduce the crew here.
Yeah, that'd be great. We'll start there.
Have the group come up here in a bit. All right, well, while I get that up there, for those of you who don't know me, hopefully you do by now, my name is Tony Valdivia.
Hi, Tony.
Hi, Tony. And I am a convention committee member. Wrong meeting.
You're not just.
So I was just going to introduce the group that's going to help us. So, of course, the convention committee members, we were voted upon by the members of SLEC on the 7 that were going to be representatives. At our first meeting, first thing we did was appoint the chair, myself, Cassie, our treasurer, Becca, our secretary, and then we have Joseph, Amy, Tim, and Kate. And Joseph, if you want to come up, and he can help present some of the slides, and then Kate is going to do our recommendations.
I'm getting a signal that it's coming over. Let me refresh my end.
All right. So while it's coming up, the things we're going to talk about is our objectives of the committee, our committee overview of what our expectations are, what we're going to do, so that way we can clearly communicate that to you. We'll also talk about the previous previous conventions, how they did financially, and then we'll also have our recommendation of the top 3 venues, and actually make our recommendation on the top 1, but also provide you the second and third choices. And so we'll have that momentarily.
It's come through my phone. It's just the internet.
You can keep talking.
So we did publish our full report. It's out on the SLEC forum. You'll see a link to Ignite. We also have a folder that goes, a link that goes to a shared drive that also has all the supplemental data from the RFPs that we collected from the other venues. There were some venues that did not submit an RFP because they already had something else booked, or we had another issue. So here's our presentation here. We can go to the next slide. This is the introductions you just made. And then if we go to the next slide here, we'll just cover real quick the committee objectives. What we're trying to get out of the convention. Number 1 is, of course, the compliance with state law. We're governed on when we have our convention, and that we have to have it. The second objective for us is to conduct official party business. So we'll nominate candidates, bylaws, all that good stuff there. But we also want to promote freedom and liberty, allow for fun, for social interactions, so that way we can make connections with the participants, delegates, and attendees as well, because other people will come in. Hopefully we can get some media out there as well. And also, let's have fun doing it. And we're going to accomplish all that while being fiscally responsible, because we are libertarians, right? And we want to make sure that we're good stewards of our party's money. So with that said, we're going to have Joseph cover the selection criteria on how we came up with the venues, and talk a little bit about the things that we took into consideration and how we chose the site. And then Kate will follow up with the actual recommendations. So go ahead, next slide.
All right. Just one thing to, I guess, begin talking about as we're working through this process. We've been asking everybody to work through the committee on this. We've got all the contact. We want to make sure that things are flowing through the committee. We're not confusing people by going out to venues and talking to them directly. So if you have questions about the venues, be sure to work those through so we can manage all that. In terms of the venue selection process, I think it worked out pretty well what we ended up doing. Of course, we visited the sites that we got responses from that we felt could be good fits. I think we all kind of came into it with different ideas about what we thought would be important for a convention. Some things overlap, some things didn't. But as we were working through all that, the selection of the top 3 really became apparent. And we all pretty much landed on the same 3. And I think we had a little bit different orders on ours, but in the end we all agreed that our 1, 2, and 3 were really cool. Everybody on the committee perfectly aligned on that. As you've seen, if you've got a chance to review the report, we've got option that is fairly reasonable, I think, in terms of cost. We've got one that's a little bit more and another one that's kind of in between. So we've got different flavors for us to discuss. And of course, the reporting. You've seen everything that we've put together, all the RFPs, all the information, everything's out there for you guys to look at. So if you have any questions about any of that stuff, feel free to throw it our way. Anything else I missed that's important, Tim?
I think that's good.
Tony? Go on to the next slide.
Actually, if you want to just back up real quick, I know that even though this is a public meeting and this is live stream, the odds of any of the venues actually watching this are slim to none. So even though we were going to make a selection today, please don't reach out to those guys until we officially sign the contract, because we can still have an opportunity to go back and maybe negotiate some additional things into the contract. So please try not to spill the beans.
I was going to say, there's actually a really high probability that Mesquite is watching. They have been stalking us.
Stalking us.
They went to a district convention to find me to give me tickets. They're supposed to be sending treats here real soon, actually. They're watching our social media, so the chances that they're watching this are actually not.
Okay. Well, the other two probably aren't watching, so we'll see. We'll see how we vote today, and then go from there. Okay.
Yeah, just I guess for reference, going into looking at the numbers for this next convention, we've got the numbers here for the two previous. I don't really want to spend too much time on it, just other than to use this as reference for when we're talking about the numbers moving forward.
Yeah, I would have something to say about that. We can talk about that.
No, we were just showing it just so we could kind of.
2018 numbers are inaccurate.
Okay. Well, this was what was available when we went out to do research. So if you have updated numbers, if you want to send that in, we can make those changes
That
in the
includes, I'm
slides.
assuming, the $3,000 coffee that no one on the convention committee ordered, you didn't know about it till 3 months later. I think it includes the equipment that the chair purchased, and we knew about it, but.
Yeah, we're not trying to do a deep dive. We're just kind of giving people ballpark on here's roughly how much we spent in the past. So that way, when we come to a budget now, we know what to expect. We know that hey, you know, if we're not going to pick a venue that's $100,000 because it's obviously twice as much. Okay, yeah, duly noted. Thank you. All right, next slide.
So right now, our unanimous for the committee came up as number one is McAllen. And looking at the numbers, you can definitely see why. They were very, very competitive with their numbers, with their proposal. The many people who actually made the drive out to McAllen were nothing but impressed with the staff, with the tour, with the location, with everything that McAllen could actually offer us on multiple levels, depending on what is important to you for convention. So if budget is important, and of course we're libertarians, we want to be fiscally responsible, that's a really great number, especially looking at the last two conventions. And we're seeing that the meeting room is being waived. We've actually got a really good, decent room rate right here. So the delegates that will be traveling, it's going to be a little bit, yes.
Just a question on it. Knowing how the order is, how secure is parking and the facility itself?
Extremely.
Actually, you want me to switch? Yeah, yes.
Anyone.
Okay, yeah.
It'd probably be good to let them get through the presentation and ask questions, but there is free parking at all of the hotels in McAllen.
Yes.
Not pretty secure.
They
Pretty
do have
secure.
security to go around, because I did ask about that when we were there. I was like, so what is it like over here? They do have a security guard that goes around the premises. All the hotels are in, it's all on convention center property-ish. So you can walk between all the hotels and the convention center. But yeah, they do have like security driving around, but there were no issues. And before we get into that, because we know this big question is going to be coming up with McAllen, aren't actually all of them. McAllen, we will get to decide on open carry, concealed carry. Like that's our decision ultimately.
which is a huge plus, obviously, of Texas. So that's another reason why it was number one, was because we get to decide on that. I mean, our food and beverage minimum and estimated was very easy to work with. I mean, that's including, was it coffee, bars, security, like it was.
I believe they actually ended
Pretty
up
basic.
waiving the minimum for us.
Yes.
So the 21,000 is our estimate of what we expect to spend on the dinners, the lunches, and then the optional breakfast that we'll have. If we can get speakers in, guest appearances, that'll be included in the premium packages where people can pay for that. So that's what the 21,000 will cover. But because they have no F&B minimum, we could decide to scale that up or down based on how we decide to market and price the ticket packages. So with the financials numbers here with the 35,000, not only am I confident that this will be cost neutral, but we should actually make a profit out of this if we price correctly, and depending on who we get as far as entertainment, speakers, things like that, if we can drive some additional interest, we may be able to sell those premium packages at a decent price point where it's affordable and we'll be able to cover our costs. And if there's a couple of pictures next of the McAllen property.
Yeah, we can go to some of the pictures, you guys can see what we might be looking at. I mean, it's beautiful. I didn't get to go myself, but I got to attend a live Facebook that Amy and Becca and Cassie did, and of course Tim went down there too. There was a lot of volunteer opportunities that would be really great for the delegation and for attendees to get involved with, especially under the party. I think they were talking about a lot of media opportunity. So there would be a lot of things that could be arranged to make McAllen, being a border town, very, very lucrative for our political stance on that. So, but yeah, so now we're going to Irving.
Yeah, and that was just an example of one of the dining rooms and meeting rooms.
Yes. So now we go to Irving. This, as you can tell, is our ritzy option. And let me tell you, when we went to Irving, it was like boarding a cruise ship. You didn't want to have to leave that hotel at all. Everything was in walking distance. Everything was just phenomenal. You want a phenomenal experience, obviously it's going to come with a phenomenal price tag, but it's a convention you will not forget. And so we've got the room rate at $139. Again, this is a brand new hotel. It opened this year. And so they're really wanting, and they're recording this pretty hard because they want to show other big groups that they can put on a show at that location if they can. I think they can. So it just depends on what y'all are looking for in flavor when it comes to that. I mean, you've got the views. This is the hotel and the entire area. This is the convention center over here, but we won't be using that because we're not big enough for that. But the hotel is amazing. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. And yeah, I mean, look, it's very modern, geometric. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
And all these locations have more than enough space. Most of these guys can get us 10,000 to 20,000 square feet, which we could fit probably twice what we're going to send in the 20,000 square foot spot. But we definitely will have plenty of room to stretch out.
Yeah. So then we have Mesquite, and this is going to be our mid-grade. Again, you can see this a little bit more than room rate for a little bit more than McAllen, obviously less than Irving. But we do still have a food. They waived the food and beverage? No, they did not. That's right. So they did not waive it, but it was actually they brought it down from what it was. And so we're looking at mid, 44, 45 on that. It's actually a very nice hotel. Mesquite right now is, they're really trying to revamp the whole rodeo thing. Everything's right there. The hotel itself is huge. You've got your convention center right behind it and the rodeo arena and all that stuff. So it's right behind there. They are set up for conventions. They're set up for stuff like us. And again, plenty of room. It was beautiful. They treated us to an amazing lunch. It was very, very tasty, especially love the dessert. And They really, while we took the tour, the tour, they were just right there telling us, you know, whatever you want, we're gonna get it for you. Like they're courting us hard. They really want us to be there. And I don't doubt that we would have a fantastic convention in Mesquite. Yeah, the campus, the hotel is beautiful too.
I would say driving up to Mesquite, I wasn't looking at it, I wasn't very impressed, but once I got there, got inside, talked to the people, I became impressed.
Yeah, and I think that's how we all were. Like we went to Mesquite thinking, okay, this is Mesquite, well, we're gonna go because you know we gotta go, and we all got there, and we were just we were blown away with how they treated us and the tour and the property. It was a very big pleasant surprise for all of us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And so I think the word to describe all these is about value, right? We're just comparing the cost to the quality. And that's why even though these have different prices, we thought there was equal value in all of them, except I think McKellen, because the quality was there and the price was significantly low, we thought they had the number one value. But these two definitely put best cases, willing to work with us, and also had, we thought tremendous value. It just comes down to, do we want the filet mignon, or do we want something that's going to be, a nice thing, and it's going to get the job done, we're all going to enjoy it, right? Do we want to go that extra? And is that extra $20,000 to $30,000 worth it for a convention? So that's questions we're going to pose to you guys, and that will settle here. So the next steps for the convention committee, of course, will be gaining your approval and getting the budget to go with that. And then we'll come back, we'll sign the contract, we'll notify the alternatives and release them so that way they can free up their space, and we're respectful of them and the time that they've committed to us, to working with us to get us the RFP process. We'll start developing the timeline to the convention to make sure all the logistics are handled as far as events, speakers, entertainment, all the coordination that goes behind the scenes. And so that speaks into recruiting volunteers. So if anyone wants to help out between now and convention with helping us organize things, that would be a tremendous value. Of course, we'll all be there. We'll be out there probably a couple days earlier, making sure that we're coordinating with the hotel staff, the venue operations, and making sure that they know who we are. So that way they know that we're the only ones authorized to make changes to services. Anything that would cost additional money, that it would come through me or one of our staff. Preferably through me. I'll be leading point on most of that at the convention. So that way, if you do have issues, I will put my phone number up there. It's already in the report. But at the convention, one thing I like to do is kick it off and introduce myself there. I'll put my phone number on there. So if anyone has any concerns, issues with the venue, or if they have a need that comes up, they can text me directly, so that way I can work with the venue directly to get that taken care of, so that it can be addressed, rather than 1,000 people already around and potentially confusing the venue staff that's going to be coordinated with this. And then the next thing we'll be doing is going out, gathering sponsorships, working on identifying how many booths we can fit in the area, so we can start working on selling those booths to candidates or other entities that want to be part of our convention. And then we'll start developing the ticket sales as far as the pricing, the tier levels, what's going to be included, what's not going to be included. And of course, a lot of that will be determined on the speakers' entertainment that we arrange. At this time, I would be happy to yield to any questions if anybody has questions of the report. I saw the gentleman in the far back raise his hand first.
I've got one thing to kind of add to what you just did, and I do have some questions. McAllen, some of you may be from that area, so I may be telling you some things you don't know, but I know for my part, I grew up in Brady, Atlanta, Central Texas. And I always thought I knew what our border was like, but until 2012, the few times I've been there was beer run, wasn't anything I wouldn't stay in. 2012, I lived there for the entirety of 2012 and part of 2013, and you hear on the news how violent the border is and all these stories. And McAllen itself was one of the cleanest and safest cities I've been to. And I traveled the country for work as an insurance adjuster, and I was so blown away at how badly the media got it wrong. about how McAllen was. I mean, the cops have, for lack of a better word, deer stands parked everywhere. And they're basically like a deer stand on hydraulic lifts that they jack up and they have cameras on. You never know if there's a cop in there hunting or not. But you know you're always being watched, and you feel safe everywhere you go because they're everywhere. And I was there for our roofing company. I was there for Hailstones. I was in every part of that town, and I never felt unsafe at any point. So the reputation is not the truth.
And I think that's one of the reasons why they really want to work with us, and why they said that they're committed to trying to help get the media out to our events. To say, hey, because they want to grow their business and change that reputation, and by us being there, I think this is a win-win. Because it's going to highlight what they have to offer as a convention destination, and it's going to bring much needed attention to our cause of liberty and freedom. And I think this is going to be a home run. This is why they've been willing to work with us. They've even talked about doing things such as giving us a free hour for a cocktail reception. They've been talking about helping print out badges for us, and some of these other little things, coming up with little goodie bags. Things like that we're currently negotiating, that's just icing on the cake of their already extremely competitive offer. And so I think it has a lot to offer.
Real quick before we go any further, Joe, could you do me a favor and join at the table? It'll help me keep track of who's on the body and who's not. Appreciate it. Sorry, go ahead.
Piggybacking on what he said, when I asked the lady, because it was really surprising, McAllen, I never really knew what to expect going to McAllen. When we got there, we're like, this town is so cool. This is really nice. And I asked her, so how do they keep it so nice around here? And she said it's because they are such a major hub. They're the #1 area for retail in the state because they have so many people coming over to spend money. So they bring in some of the highest sales tax revenue, which we don't want taxes, but that is something they do. And so they have motivation to keep their area very pristine. Their mall is fantastic. It's one of the biggest malls. It might be one of the biggest ones in the state. And she says in the top something in the country. But all these little facts that we never would have known because I kind of was skeptical. I was like, oh, McAllen, that's so weird. But I went. It was really nice.
Yes.
Yeah, real quick question. When we're looking at all three of these options, some of them we're going to be using some infrastructure in the city. What I want to know is, the private versus like the city tax funds being used for any of this stuff. Are all of these bids pretty much just with a private entity and this is what they charge, or do any of them include, like kickbacks? I think the reason I'm asking the question is that I think like Mesquite, last time we met, Mesquite was going to print the badges for, like the city was going to print the badges for us or something. It was kind of an offhanded comment, but I just kind of want some clarity on what the tax dollars, if any, would be going to any of these options.
So I think there is some on the CBB where they have a partnership that does include some support from local government that would be helping offset some of the costs at certain locations.
And that's just kind of, we know as libertarians, we see this every day. We have to live in the world and the game that's already set up for us. We don't have a choice. In fact, the majority of them that were within our range had to have, it was the CBBs right there. And if we wanted to get rid of that, we're looking at $60,000, $80,000 for our convention. Like if we wanted to go to the Gay Award, and they were actually somebody who said, hey, come on over here, that would have been totally private. But we don't have the funds to do the Gay Award or anything like that.
I drove on roads to get here. Right?
Yes.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
But there's a difference between the infrastructure that exists and having like a city pay for our badges.
But we also pay a hotel tax.
Yeah.
So delineating the two, I'm just.
Yeah, and obviously they've done the math to know that this is what they can offer because they're going to make it up on tax on the back side.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say real quick, while all these offers are going to have the CBD putting money into it, the money that they're going to be spending is going to be coming specifically from the HOT fund, which is Hotel Occupancy Tax. That is money that is specifically taken from these hotels in order to prevent city things. So while it is, in fact, government money that's being spent. It was money that was taken from the hotels we're doing business with. And it's not like if we don't do this business, they say, well, you know what, we didn't spend that money, you can have your money back. They don't do that, they just spend the money.
Okay.
McAllen is owned by the city of McAllen, that's McAllen.
The convention center.
Convention.
Yes, yeah, because the venue itself will be at the convention center, and then the hotels are around it. So that's where they work together in partnership to drive business. Because of course the convention business feeds into the hotel feeds into the tax, and that's where they raise money.
Private.
Mesquite is also got the, Mesquite is also, yes. Mesquite's also convention center.
Yeah.
I didn't hear the answer to the question.
I believe it's a partnership that they have.
Mesquite also has a convention center that they have the same deal.
And same thing with Irving, actually, because I mean, the convention center's right next to.
Okay, but I thought we were going to have our conventions in Mesquite and Irving, if we do it with those, in the hotel, not in the convention center.
Yes, but those cities, because they are right next to the convention center, they have a partnership with those hotels. And so like anytime organizations gonna come to those hotels, the city gets involved. Because they have that partnership already worked out.
Did you make any estimates about attendance? Let's talk about delegates attending in McAllen, or I guess Mesquite and Irving would be both.
Yeah, I mean, we were estimating between 400 to 500, and like I said, the space there, especially McAllen has said we could use up to 20,000 square feet, which, I mean, I don't know how many people that would hold. Probably about 1,000. So,
We want this recruited.
I'm talking about people who would show up.
Yeah, I answered this on the forum, so I'm happy to speak to it here as well. We did estimate that we're looking at previous attendance, that with the growth that we have, we're expecting 450. However, we also were very clear with all three of the venues that we're a public, this is a public event, open to the public, and it's erratic. It could be totally different. So we pretty much told them anywhere from 200 to 500, and they're all of them are aware that it could be anywhere in that, and they're willing to work with us on that.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Do you know, I know this is not covered, and I should have asked on the form, and I apologize for that, but how many square feet did we have available last convention on the convention floor? About, do y'all remember? Because I want to compare that to
It was in the
1,000,
report.
makes sense to me.
I think it was about 5,000 or 6,000.
Yeah, we had it in the report, it's just not in here.
Yeah. I think about 5,000. So that's what I'm saying, like,
So much you want to say. Tables and raffles.
Yeah, 10,000.
Is that 5,000 accessible?
Signature tax dollars. No, that's from the Mesquite.
Wow. Jokes to the camera.
I know, the last convention, there was a few individuals that were disabled that had a hard time moving about as delegates in the convention. Will this convention have accessibility? And
Yeah, I believe all three of these venues are ADA compliant.
Most of them
And
are
then
brand new.
Yeah, we're right there.
for James,
Yeah, and since we are requesting, they are making available a significant amount of space for the convention area. We will have, should have plenty of room.
They do have rooms available too.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, we toured even the rooms, the suites, I mean, just every single thing that they could, we asked for, they brought it to us.
yeah, so like, for example, in McAllen, they actually have a list of hotels that we'll be able to stay at, and they range, like you said, from rates of 99 up to, I think it was about 130. And so you can definitely decide which one you want to choose at your next year.
So expandability is not a problem?
No.
On the spot, expandability is not a problem?
It will not,
In case we get a whole bunch of,
Yeah,
Right now, we've asked for more space than we think we'll use. So when we looked at it, we looked at not only the main area for holding the convention, but we also looked at rooms for holding the banquets, rooms for holding debates, rooms that we'll need for our internal logistics. So we have plenty of space in either McAllen, that whole convention center. They have that whole.
No.
We'll have it all to ourselves.
All three check off every box.
Well, we didn't ask for the whole thing. The whole thing is, I think, what, like 100,000?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, between the different ballrooms, right now, I think they sectioned off probably about 30,000 square feet. Is that about right? I think they've given us the two big ballrooms, and then aside, the three side ballrooms that we have like the lunches and dinners in, and then we also have three other rooms that we could use for whatever we want, whether it's storage, meeting room, guest speakers, whatever. So they're
Media room.
I mean, I can speak for Mesquite, but I know, remember, Mesquite said if they have, was it 10 days? They need their final number. So that's actually, that's short notice, 10 days. So if we end up doubling its size, like, we can give them 10 days ahead of time that number. And I'm sure, yeah, Mesquite, but I'm pretty sure McAllen and Irving are probably right there too. But I just remember specifically Mesquite saying that, so.
Okay, I heard, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to see you first now.
Okay. I heard talk about this, essentially in McAllen, we're just not going to put up any 30-06 or 30-07 at our discretion signs for the gun stuff, right?
That's correct.
Okay, what I wanted to know is what are the signs that are up? And there's no signs up at the other locations.
No,
From the other locations.
At the other locations, there were some. Do you remember?
Yeah, both of the other two are concealed carry fine, open carry none.
Okay, so they have 30-07 signs.
I always get them mixed up, so I'm just saying what the outcome is.
So McAllen, I don't think we saw any
So
signs.
McAllen has no signs, the other two are no.
So McAllen's the only open carry out of
Correct.
three.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so, just the question I have for me, if I missed this in the report, please correct me, but, like, when I hire employees, if I've got good people, I kind of turn them loose and show me something. And I'll say to everybody else, if you don't know the individual committee members, I think they're all awesome. Like, you guys are way more than competent, you're exceptional at what you do outside of this particular committee. So I'm thankful that you're doing all this stuff for me and for all of us, because it saves me time. So as far as I'm concerned, if you guys all agree on the number one, I'm good by that. But for clarification purposes, I'd like to know what are some of the things that disqualified sites. Can you give an example of a site that you crossed off the list? This one's not going to be in our top three, and here's why it crossed off the list.
So when we looked at it, we had a matrix where we had costs, quality of the event rooms, quality of the secondary rooms. Then we looked at room rates. We looked at location as far as where they are in the state, and then location inside the city. What other venues are they next to? What's nearby? Shopping centers, things like that. And then what we did, and then we also had a section on the 30-07, 30-06. And what we did is we ranked those. I think we all agreed that cost was our number one, followed closely by the quality of the rooms. And so that was like 10 waiting, 8 waiting. Room rate was like 6, and then the locations were in the middle, and then the double odds were kind of like a mid to low criteria, because we were going to automatically kick somebody out just because they had that sign. We were still going to consider them, but once we rated them and we looked at them, these were the 3 that had rose to the top. The only ones that we disqualified off the get-go were obviously the ones that didn't return to RP, and then I think there was one that was like at an actual stadium, but the cost to do it there was prohibitive, and we knew that there wasn't going to be a way to pull that one up. So that was the only one that we were like, oh, that one we can scratch off the list. Everyone else, we went through the trading, we did site visits, we took a look, and then we came back together, we had a conversation, and we started hashing them out. And these are the 3 that clearly rose to the top, especially in regards to, like I said, that value, here's the quality, all quality venues, and then the cost. And of course, McAllen, just because of their cost structure of waiving the F&B minimums, giving us the room, the event space for basically free, that was just too hard for any of the other venues, in our opinion, to match.
Now, the only thing I can give example to that we used on our own discretion on how to eliminate is, and this is just affected like 2 or 3, was we really didn't consider anything in Houston, and we really didn't consider anything in San Antonio just because it'd be too soon to to have another convention with those 2 locations. Other than that, I think that's the only example that we had that
But we
wasn't.
still rank them though.
Yeah,
When
we
they came
still-
back, we still put them in the ranking.
Yeah.
And even regardless of that, they were still below these top 3.
Gotcha.
So,
Thanks.
no problem. Well, you guys was over there, but I didn't have a chance to come back.
So these venues have plenty of space. What about furniture, table chairs? Is that something they can accommodate?
Yes,
Yes.
that's
It goes-
actually, it's part of the agreement.
Yeah.
And so some of them have, some costs with setup and takedown things. But yeah, that's part of the contract is, when we set them up classroom style, they'll have the chairs out there for the banquets. They'll have, the round or square tables with chairs, linens, all that stuff. And then of course we'll order the food on top of that. So that's all going to be clearly outlined in that final contract when we get it signed.
Because the last convention, we were short some tables, I think because of space constraints, the way we rearranged it. But since we have all this space, if we end up with a situation where, we've got to make an adjustment.
We asked that was actually a question, a normal question we asked every single site visit. Will you have enough tables, enough chairs? And every single one of them said if for some reason the hotel does not have enough tables or chairs, they have that partnership, that contract with the convention centers that are all right next door, and they can take from there. We will not have that issue.
And so if there's, like I said, I have my phone number on there. If you get there, like, hey, Tony, I don't have a place to sit, call me. I'll go down and spend my own money to buy you a chair and a table. We'll take care of it. I mean, all these guys have been more than eager to work with us, have offered us more space than I could possibly imagine us using, but who knows, it's an election year, maybe, people will show up in droves for libertarians, and we'll see who candidates come up to be. Well, I was hoping that I can
So February 2022?
We did.
Well, I tell you what, that'll be for the committee of 2022 to decide. We'll tackle this one first, we'll get through here, and then whoever's fortunate enough to serve on that committee. Then I'll come back to you.
I think the most important question that we haven't asked yet is, to your knowledge, do any of these cities contain any of my ex-girlfriends?
All the places within Texas.
Unfortunately, there were a few we couldn't track down, so there's a couple out there. I'm a little worried, so maybe we'll get our security detail for you there.
The list is extensive, so.
But distinguished. I don't know in what way, but we're not going to. Well, actually, she got a question. We'll come back to you.
You do have to go through border patrol to get to McAllen. Is that right?
Not to get to, but to get back.
To get back.
To get back. You have to
Think
go
the
through.
four guys
Yeah, I can address that. Anything you take with you to McAllen would be searched, but anything coming out of McAllen, you might get, some dogs sniffing around your vehicle. So if you're transporting something interesting to McAllen, you're probably fine.
If you just
Leave it.
That's my theory.
That's all I do.
Just use it all.
So the question is, can you walk? And yes, you can walk, and even in McAllen, they have a shuttle that'll carry you within a 5-mile radius. So it'll get to the airport, bring you to the hotels. The hotels are actually within walking distance, but there's also a shuttle that'll take you around. And then I think you're
I want to drill down a little bit on this publicity piece. What did they offer, anything specific, and how do you go to prepare that?
Yeah, so I think that's something that we will still have to work through, but I think there's interest there. There's no firm commitment we're going to get to the X, Y, Z. But I think there's interest in trying to help us drum up some.
Yeah, there's nothing for sure, but there's a lot of confidence.
Yes.
And they already have a challenge. Yes, especially those two. Yeah, everybody wasn't,
Yeah,
they were very,
But yeah, McAllen, I think, like I said, they seem to be the most eager to work with us. And like I said, the extras they've been talking about doing, the quote, as you can see by far, is $10,000 below the next closest competitor. Let's see. Liz, okay, we'll go to Liz, and we'll come back to you. Liz, go ahead.
So, do y'all happen to know if there's an Amtrak station down there? Because I know a lot of people don't want to fly, but they might take the train. So I knew that question was coming up, and we came up with a very fun and interesting solution. So, as you know, I'm in Northeast Texas, and I'm rural, and so a lot of the organization when it comes to travel is going to be the urban areas. And so one of the things that we came up with while we were trying to discuss, how are we going to get all these people from every corner of Texas to McAllen if we end up going to McAllen? And it was, we could all carpool from Mount Vernon and Pittsburgh and all that stuff, SD1. And then we go to the DFW area and we can put all of our resources together and park our cars at a friend's house. And then we have, a bus or a party bus that everybody in the DFW area maybe comes together with some of the surrounding rural areas and just party down there. I mean, every area could possibly do that. I mean, that's just one option that would be fun and
just to point out, 20 party buses with Libertarian Party stickers heading back through that border checkpoint. Oh, they're going to be afraid of us. Don't even stop. Go, go, go.
But yeah, I'll look at Amtrak. I'll definitely look at Frank says there is.
So, did I answer your question?
Enough.
We'll get creative. We'll get some.
I was just wondering if you know off the top of your head, because it's an interesting way to travel. Yes.
It is.
Part of training.
When I was looking at the stuff online that you guys posted, it said urban was $10 for parking.
Yes.
That's right.
Okay, were the others, Mesquite and McAllen, like, free?
It's free parking and free Wi-Fi.
So that parking is only for people who's not staying in the hotel?
No, that is
Everybody?
at the hotel.
Everybody
Yes.
has to pay.
Per day?
Per day, $10 per car parking.
And that's actually, they brought that down because it's usually
Yeah,
more.
that was it. I
I
think it was
think
like
if you rent some of our video, in rec offices if you want to park there.
Real quick question. Is it safe to assume that, according to the committee, Mesquite would probably be the number 2? Like, if you're using approval voting, it would rank as the second choice?
Yeah, I think it was pretty close. I think they had a slight edge. And I think there was, even though we like the value, that I think getting to that 60,000, we know it's going to be a challenge because that is a big price tag.
Just, in my mind, it's between McAllen and Mesquite.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, we just wanted to round out with the three options instead of, because we don't like the current duopoly, right? So we wanted to add that third one in there.
Yeah.
And we figured we'd give it a little, boozy here.
It could also represent the good, better, best type philosophy, right? Where we have our solid, this one's a little bit nicer, but you're paying a lot more for it. And then this is the top end, but we thought there was value in each of those. Of course, like I said, we have the criteria. Some, McAllen as far as like getting to didn't score quite as high, and Irving a little bit easier, we think, to get there. But then as far as, the niceness of Irving was higher, the highest one because it's, brand new facility. But then, the cost and the quality is still there in McAllen, and that's why I think everyone who went there just felt welcome that location. Okay, well, Kathy, the gentleman in the back.
My assumption is a little bit different from what I hear. Maybe this is why it's in line would be attending. I think it was the last that we had in 2018, maybe 250. And if it turns out, and we'll know, of course, closer to time what the better estimate is. But if it were 250, you gave the number 250 to say Mesquite, would they have given us a lower number for the FMH?
I don't think they would give us a lower number. And one of the challenges with Mesquite is with the bookings, we're committed to a certain number of rooms, and I think we can miss that number by 10% before we're liable. Whereas the McAllen location, there's no minimum hotel purchases. I mean, there's no attrition on that. So we can block the rooms if we don't get the number. We're not liable. Where Mesquite, I think, was a 10% attrition.
Yeah.
So if we booked 100 rooms and we got 90, we'd be okay.
We'd be okay, but if we got 85, then we have to make up that 5.
Then you have 5 hospitality suites.
Yeah.
But if we told them we needed less space, less meeting room space, because we anticipate fewer delegates attending, you say they still give us a price break?
It's the,
We'd have to go back and renegotiate.
Yeah, well, it's the, and having the F&B, minimum, that's usually doesn't kind of matter. You have to kind of build that package up, however you possibly could to spend that money.
Yeah, but they're looking at it, well, we're giving you this amount of space and not charging you for it, so we have to charge so much on the F&B to get to.
Yeah, but they came down, they came down.
But if
Yeah.
they pay less space, then that's.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we have to look at, but, I think that would put us in a potentially dangerous situation where if we did go down and say, okay, we're gonna free up that space, and we committed to 250, and then all of a sudden we got 450 people show up.
We're in trouble.
Yeah, we're gonna be in trouble, and so to me, as a financial analyst, one thing I do is I look at that and I look at a cost benefit and risk reward. With the McKellen offer, where we can scale up or down as large as we want, there's zero risk as far as attendance size there. All the other venues have some amounts of risk related to the attendance being lower than what we expect. So yeah, that's something that we should take into consideration. Then gentleman in the back.
I just wanted to speak to the earlier infrastructure issue. I think I might be the only member of SLEC that actually lives in the valley. So I just want to say there's no Amtrak, which is government run by the way, but there are 3 commercial airports in the area, and I've already offered anyone that wants to fly in Southwest, I'll drive them from Harlingen all the way to Calhoun because it's not really that long of a distance, especially considering, we live in Texas and we're all used to that sort of drive. But I mean, I'm totally willing to do that, and I've also, every time I drive up, I go to the checkpoint. They've never asked me anything beyond, are you a U.S. citizen? And I've even driven with other people who are immigrants and they don't even check their papers, but that was just a one-time thing. But again, like it was mentioned, you can bring anything down there, just consume it before you come back up, and then of course, it's only legal to possess, it's not illegal to consume in Texas.
Well, it's federal law.
Thank you.
Well,
Well, no, it's also state laws and it's legal to possess marijuana, for instance.
Kind of, yeah.
Consume it without, and that's what Texas is like.
I tell you what, I just want to say thank you for that offer. It's very generous.
I have these assumptions in my head about attendance, depending on geography, location.
Yes.
I mean, I kind of think that there are less people willing to drive a long distance to McAllen, but as opposed to Dallas Fort Worth, which is maybe is just as far, but a lot of people don't think of it as that far. And I'm wondering, did you guys make any assumptions about, well, we think maybe fewer people will actually attend McAllen versus a DFW location? And I mean,
yeah.
What factor did y'all thought of that?
So that kind of went into that location factor when we're thinking about the 2 types of locations. The one is where they were located in the States, and the other one was locally, like where's that venue in relationship to other things inside that particular city. And so that's where the only thing I think that really dinged McAllen was the fact that where it's located, it's, especially if you're coming all the way from North Texas, that's a long trip, right? So we did factor that in, and that's why they got a slightly lower score on that versus the other venues. But we feel like the value, the price, make up for that, and it is a trade-off. It is a trade-off. There is a potential. I don't want to go that far. But likewise, there are some people that that are closer to McAllen and be like, you know what? I'm glad they're finally having something close to me, and we expect those people to show up. So there's going to be some natural turnover, right? There's going to be some people who decide not to go with that, and there's going to be some people who do decide. And so it's going to be hard to tell. But what we do know is libertarians, even though there's not a lot of us yet here in Texas and we'll continue to grow, we know that we're very passionate, and we expect a good turnout, especially for this upcoming election.
Yes.
What was the bottom line numbers to McAllen's 35?
35.
What was the next closest?
Estimate. 40.
44.
Yeah, 40. Yes, sir.
Am I allowed to speak about a select member?
That's all the only 4 questions.
As communications director, I'd like to speak in favor of the location of McAllen, having not really seen some of the details. But keep in mind that our national convention where we select the president is in Austin, and it's just a couple weeks later. So anyone in our president is almost certainly going to come to our convention, wherever it is. And I want you to visualize the key issue of immigration, which separates us from other parties in the big way. Now, imagine your favorite LP candidate for president giving a press conference in front of the boardwalk, in front of the Rio Grande River. It's a very powerful image. And from a perspective, that matters greatly. And likely, maybe this isn't such an issue 8 years from now. So this is the year for something like McAllen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
All right.
All right. With that, I am going to make a motion then that we choose McAllen as our location. And what I'd like to do is actually, I know we said 35, but I'd actually request 37,000 just so we have a $2,000 buffer. That doesn't necessarily mean we'll spend it, but just that we have the authority there. If we decide that, you know what, we're able to reach up and grab a really good speaker, and we want that additional piece to pull in additional people or host an additional event, maybe starting on a Thursday night. And all of that would really benefit us because we can get some good speakers in there. It'll help us raise money. And like I said, even if we do send a full 37,000, it should be cost neutral at worst, at best. We should actually be able to make money while we conduct our business.
Point of information.
Yes.
Would you ask for that extra 2,000 no matter the venue?
Probably. I mean, I just like to have a cushion rather than something. I guess let me back up and give a little bit more of my own personal history. One of the things I do is I invest in real estate. And what I do is I take a lot of houses, I fix them up and I post them, and then I either rent them out or I sell them. And whenever I come up with a cost budget, I always have a contingency factored in. The $2,000 in this case is my contingency for anything that we might want to change, like last minute change order, something maybe unexpected that we don't foresee. Right now we're in that process, we haven't set anything, so we're doing our due diligence. So I hope we capture everything, and I feel we have in a contract that's already been presented to us. But I just like to have that little contingency, just in case something comes up. It's easier to have now on the front side than to get ourselves in a jam and then try to organize something right before convention to get spending authority. And like I said, once we start pre-selling tickets, I mean, we'll actually have the money coming in before anything goes out the door. So this is going to fund itself. All we're really looking for is the approval to spend up to the $37,000. We should have revenue in excess of that between the ticket sales, any of the sponsors, selling the tables. I think we're going to do pretty well on this one.
Can you clarify that this represents your motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Second.
We have
Well,
a
it was already seconded.
Awesome. Well, and
I'd like to
just,
move to amend.
not that it, real quick, I'll recommend you a second. Not that it matters too much, but fun fact, motions from committees don't need to be seconded, so there you go.
I'd like to move to amend the 2,000 to 10%. When you're working with contingency factors on numbers this big, 2,000 is really not enough. There's always going to be unforeseen costs. I mean, obviously, we don't want to make the coffee mistake again, but you definitely don't want to be in a position where if he goes 2,500, he's got to come back here and explain to us and ways to have big business people complaining about it. So when you do these types of business deals, you always have a contingency. And it's pretty standard for most entrepreneurs that 10% is a base. So I think 2 million is too small of a touch number.
So it would be 10% in my calculation is 38,500. So raise another 1,500. Cool.
I'll second.
Okay. Second to the amendment. All right. Is there any objection to the amendment? There's objection. There's no discussion. We can proceed to. Oh, Joe Burke. If there's no discussion, we can proceed to a vote. All in favor of adopting the amendment, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion passes. So we accept those. All right, on to the main motion. Let me accept both of these. Yes. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, we proceed to a vote. All in favor of passing the motion, raise your hand. All opposed? Yay, we selected place. All right, give me just a second to save this, and then I'll probably be recognizing.
Sorry,
Steve.
Sorry, Steve. Send it back.
I'll see it. I'll get all this. Okay, with that said, is there any other motions related to the convention planning report? Order. Is there any other motions related to the convention report? Yes.
Yes, our rules require us to apportion delegates at the same time.
Also,
It's the same meeting.
Yeah.
So I presume that's what we need to do now. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. So if you,
I have a motion, but discussed with you in advance. And could you go ahead and pull up a spreadsheet which is on the Ignite under the meetings folder?
Excel is trying really hard.
Okay, good.
There we go.
It's kind of small.
Yeah, I'm gonna zoom in some for
Yeah. Yeah, if you get it down where you can see down to Montgomery County, I think.
Oh, here we go.
No, scroll up, but I mean, expand it out of the view to where Montgomery County is on the bottom.
To where?
And scroll up now to where Harris, okay, it's visible. I just want to make it as big as you see. Okay. Now, all right, here's the motion. The motion is that we apportion delegates by dividing the total number of votes gotten for all statewide races per county by 13,000, and then rounding up. And then with a minimum of 4 per county below that.
Awesome. Let me get that onto it.
And so this motion incorporates the spreadsheet as what we're going to be looking at.
Awesome. So let me.
And I'll be happy to speak to that to make it much more clear. And that includes the numbers in the spreadsheet. For the
You're taking the total number of votes and dividing by 13,000?
The total number of votes per county.
Per county.
The total number of votes for statewide office, to be precise. Libertarian votes for statewide office. While he's typing that, I'll go ahead and just kind of talk.
Go ahead.
Have we got a second, John?
Let me get the motion on out there before we ask for.
Is it okay for me to talk?
Please go ahead.
Okay. The rules say that we're supposed to do this, I think, what is it about? Party strength and our population, right? And our. But anyway, historically what we've done is Harris County, because it's got the largest population, always has the largest number of votes. And so you kind of look at that, and then everything gets proportioned down. And then the other, so really the big deal is picking that dividing number, the 13,000. Really, it just sets what Harris County gets, and then everybody gets it proportionally down from there. And then the other lever that you have on this decision is, okay, once you get down to the small counties, how many delegates are they going to have? Because by this formula, if you didn't do that, you'd be down to 1 for a whole bunch of them real fast. So, and historically, since about 2012 is my recollection, we've done 4 per county for the small counties for that. I see no reason to change the 4. The 13,000, what it is do what has happened for at least 3 or 4 cycles where Harris County got 33, and then everything went down proportionally from there. You know, the levers are for people who want to amend this. The primary lever is to go in and change that division factor. We have a spreadsheet where you can just plug the number in and you can see what it is. If you wanted to get some counties like Hayes or some of the, you know, the ones on the edge, up to 5, you know, above the 4, you'd have to take Harris County up to like 41 delegates and then everybody else proportioned down. I just chose the historic thing that we've done for the motion to get the conversation started. And we have the ability to play what if with the spreadsheet on the screen if anybody feels like playing that way.
So before I ask for a second, can you read this and confirm that that is?
Yes, okay. Okay, move to apportion delegates to the state, add to the state convention. Okay, but take the total number of votes received by libertarians in statewide races per county.
I can let that later.
Where it is, it's later.
Yeah.
In each county. Okay, dividing that number by 13,000 and rounding up. Okay. All counties with a number of delegates below 4 will receive a minimum of 4 delegates. Yes, that's
Okay.
fine.
Is there a second to this motion?
Second.
Awesome. Is there any discussion or amendments? Mr. Rodriguez.
I think we should amend the minimum from 4 to 2. I think that gives even the small counties representation from 2, but I think by having 4, it rewards counties that haven't done the work with a greater voice than they should normally have, compared to counties that are in the process of organizing, that are already libertarian candidates, and that are getting out there. So that's one thing I just like us to consider briefly is, you know, somewhere that 2 to 4 range. 4 seems a little high. I wouldn't go more than a minimum of 2, but just wanted to kind of get people's thoughts on that.
Is there a second to that amendment?
I'll second.
Here's a second. All right, so let me put this.
I would like to speak on that though.
Well, hold on, before we do that. Okay. You've already spoken. I heard that you wanted to speak against. Amy, you want to speak against?
Yes, I would like to speak against that because we were actually having a discussion with somebody from a rural county at lunch. And we were discussing how they get their delegates and if anything that will harm them because they will have less representation for their area and they are trying to grow their party. So, you know, it was actually asked if we could increase it. So I would say that from those who actually are in those counties, that would greatly negatively impact them.
All right, I'm going to recognize the chair.
Actually, you should probably recognize someone to speak in favor first, and then recognize.
Is anybody ready to speak in favor of amendment?
Point of information.
Point of information.
How did the math work in the previous convention?
It was pretty similar.
Okay, and I can answer that question. In this spreadsheet, if you flip over to it, I have up top a organized, it says organized counties, and it has, and then I have small county total over to the right. So what this does is says if every delegate slot was filled, and of course that never happens, especially in small counties, then you would have a total of 375 delegates for, and I've tried to go through and make sure we had my guesses in my spreadsheet for only the currently organized counties. If we work hard and get a whole bunch more organized, those numbers will go up. But then it also has, over small county total, it has, right now, with 4, it would be 192. I presume I think we can go in and mess with the spreadsheet where we change it to 2 and we'd see, but I'm pretty sure that would just go from 192 down to half of that. Yeah, right there.
Oh, I got to enable editing. Hold on. Let's try this again.
We would have, and so, you know, one of the questions then becomes, I've already had a question. Scroll down to a little bit down below. Oh, it's still showing, okay, yeah, it's down to, go up now and see where it starts flipping. So Hidalgo still gets, okay, see, scroll down, okay.
The
Hidalgo
Hays
stays-
is where-
Galveston will still get 4.
So, Dennis, can you do a count of the numbers that you use? Because those would give us a number of.
Okay, but what I want to see is when we take it from 4, there were some people that had 4 that will have a little bit more. Brazos would get 3 now instead of 4, right? Lubbock would get 3 instead of 4. What about Hayes?
I can reach you the number
It still has
of
4.
counties that earned their 4.
Yeah, okay.
Therefore, we're getting nothing by setting a voting on 4, and that's Hayes, Cameron, Brazoria, Oasis, Galveston, and Venice.
So they would still get it.
They
Right.
would be 4.
And then Lubbock would lose 1. Webb, if it was organized, would lose 1. Brazos would lose 1. And then from there down, everybody would lose 2.
Anybody to speak in favor?
I have a request for information.
Request for information, go ahead.
Where on Ignite is this document found? I have it last time.
It's on the meeting folder.
The which folder?
The meeting folder, the main meeting folder.
Today?
I think.
Are you ready to speak in favor?
Yeah.
Sort of neutral. This, I think, does make the proportion, it focuses it more on the proportion system, which I'm in favor of. I probably would be okay with 3 as a more subtle move from our past number 4. But, so if you have a county with hundreds of thousands of votes and we end up, they getting 20 delegates, all these small counties with 1,000 votes automatically get 1/5 the voting strength of a large county. This is really dealing with voting strength of counties, and we're basically, what we're deciding is how much voting strength to hand to all these small counties. A lot of them simply aren't going to get over the minimum, that just from their population sizes, it's just never going to be possible. So we just want to keep that in mind. We're deciding how proportional we want to be with everyone and how much voting strength we want to give away to rural counties, because that's what we're essentially doing. We're just giving them voting strength because we're still led to the rural counties. If we do that enough, if we make it 8, we're giving them a lot more voting strength. And I'm not going to well, we do things that balance it, but I don't know the perfect number. So I just want to keep us to keep that in mind when we're deciding this.
Okay, John?
So, there's not a lot of issues I like to get into the arguments with, but this has been one that's near and dear to my heart for a long time, and I get to grandstand on this one every year. I'm in an interesting position on this one now because I have moved to the DFW. I'm no longer in a rural area, but it is something I've worked with for a long time. I have started up 2 rural county parties. I grew one, I left, it became self-sustaining. I started up in Anderson when I left it, actually fell apart, came back to Cherokee and worked some more. Rural counties in this state have a unique set of constraints that actually handicap them based on the way we currently apportion delegates. Currently we do it based on only statewide races, which statewide races have to do with raw number of votes getting, which is heavily determined by population. There are counties out there that could get 100% libertarian turnout, could elect libertarians and not get nearly, or I say 100% turnout, 100% votes for libertarians, elect libertarians, and still not get good apportionment based on the system. During the last convention, there was a rules proposition that never made it to the floor that would reduce this number to 2, but also give rural counties a allocation based on local races, which is the big race in rural counties. And the percentage they got, not the raw number, because that's huge. If you elect a libertarian in your county, I think you should get rewarded for that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we didn't get there. So right now, we are stuck with a system that is based on raw numbers. I hear arguments that we are giving away raw voting strength. A lot of these places are places where people have the next house down a mile away. You want to talk about block walking in these areas? If you, in your rural county, can come up with the 4 people to fill your slots, good. You have an active rural county party, and let's send those people. Because I know some of these big counties that don't fill their slots.
Right.
For the rural counties that don't have an active party, they will not have the people to send. And it won't matter. They won't have the money to spend to go down there. So this minimum 4 gives the opportunities for the counties that have got together resources to send 4 full people to do that without hurting them because they happen to live in a geographic area that made it physically impossible for them to get more. So that's
Anyone else want to speak in favor of the motion?
I'll speak in favor.
All right,
Thank you. There's one county where every voter that voted for Libertarian could attend as a delegate. In other words, they, in the highest total vote, I think it was King County, got 4 Libertarian votes. So every person who voted Libertarian could have a delegate slot. That's just an aside. My bigger question is, the way we're apportioning this is as if the job of the state was, or the job of the delegate was to represent their county. And I don't believe that's true. I think if you're a delegate to the state convention, you're there to represent Texas Libertarians, not your county. And that would suggest that doing any kind of allocation like this, where giving preference within a county, I guess my question is why? Because they're not there to represent the county. They're there to represent Texas Libertarians.
Liz?
All right, I do want to speak against this motion. Looking at the data that we had from last year in Tarrant County, we feel that 10% of the candidates, Libertarian candidates statewide, we have like 7 or 8 House districts in our county, and we only had 2 that went unfilled. We had 20 delegates for primary delegates in Tarrant County, completely full. We had 11 alternate delegates. This is a huge recruiting opportunity because we get people that show up at our convention, our precinct and county conventions, and they're pumped. Yes, we're going to go to state. We're going to go make a difference. And then if I tell them, you know what, we fielded all of these candidates last year, we busted our ass. Sorry. We worked so hard for this, and then I go back and I tell them, you know what, it wasn't good enough. We're losing delegates here. They are going to be very unhappy. And the other thing to think about with this is if we do reduce the number of delegates coming from these larger counties, I don't know how this would affect Dallas. I haven't looked at Dallas's numbers either. I think that it will seriously be a detriment to the state party, and people will be disenchanted with what's going on. And they're going to continue to look at the state executive committee like it's all drama, even though for some reason today it has not been, which has been awesome. But seriously, the 13,000 number needs to come down. I'm okay with 4 for rural counties. You know, I'm okay with 2, but the 13,000 number needs to come down because we can't be punishing these larger counties. They're really working hard.
Does anybody want to speak in favor of the motion?
I'm sorry. In favor of the amendment?
To lower.
So we get more.
So we at least have the same number that we had last time, you know?
Can we see that?
Yeah.
Can I be recognized?
Yes. You weren't next, but I do see you. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, next.
So,
Sorry.
as soon as I saw this on the forums, I did speak to several constituents, including a former chair, about this very issue, and the response was negative. In fact, if anything, that there should be more delegates coming from the counties. And in fact, if we change that to 12,000, we'll wind up with 430 delegates from affiliated counties. So that right there is
not addressing
The amendment.
No, I am addressing the amendment.
The amendment to, not the 13,000.
Sorry.
Renee has the floor.
So, I apologize, I did speak out of turn from the Robert's rules, but, so, I vote that we speak, we do not want to diminish the number of delegates, that's an important ingredient to it, that's a problem.
Anybody will speak in favor? Okay, Kathy?
Well, I'm chair of the largest county organization, and I don't see the floor minimum taking anything away from me or Harris County. I mean, I get your point. Logically, I see that it's not really being proportionate as it could be, but I think that ship has sailed. And when we went from 2 to 4 in 2012, hardly anybody filled it was there 4. Hardly any small county said 4. But we come to 2018, and I've seen lots of smaller counties filling 4. And if we take that away, you can't help but feel that something's been taken from you. If you had 2 all along, you might say, you know, maybe you should raise it, but you wouldn't feel diminished by having 2. So now that we've done it, I just don't see that we can go back without making, creating lots of dissatisfaction in the rural counties, which are the only ones that we can grow. We're organized in all the big counties. The only growth pathway we have is in these smaller rural counties. So I would not change it.
Tom?
Yeah, I'm speaking against it as well. One of the things is to look at the rules say population or party strength. And I always thought of this giving, bumping up what's going on in rural is rewarding counties for being organized. Now, one of the measures of party strength is, are you organized in a county? And it isn't, I think, an effective way to build an organization is to give more slots to those counties. And so that's why I like keeping the 4. I don't think it's, but to Liz's point, I think I agree with Liz. If you want to give cities more, or big counties more guild, let's go to do another amendment and mess with the 13,000.
Yeah.
You were next.
Yeah, I'm speaking in, I want the 4 delegates for the rural counties. One of the goals of my campaign is to affiliate Wood and Anderson again. We already did Van Zant. If I have the cherry or the carrot of 4 delegates from your county, I'm going to have a lot better chance of selling you on becoming the chair. So please don't take that away from me. You're taking we should definitely roll the 13,000 back, even 10,000. I think we should try to grow as many delegate spots as we can. Will we fill them? No, that's the challenge.
John.
Thank you.
Good job.
Move the previous question.
Okay. So we're ready to vote on the amendment.
The amendment to the amendment.
I call the question. We have to vote and call the question.
Okay, sorry.
Any objection?
My Robert's rules. Is there a second on the question?
Second.
Ask for any objections.
Objection.
All in favor of the amendment? All in favor of calling the question? Raise your hand. Call the next question. So all opposed, call the question.
On the amendment?
Yes.
Just on the answer.
So that passes. We're moving now to vote on the amendment.
The amendment to the amendment that takes it from 4 to 2.
The amendment changing it from 4 to 2. Everybody clear?
Yes. So please clarify. So if you're for the amendment, you're for
2.
dropping it.
That's right. If you vote in favor of this amendment, you're wanting to drop it from 4 to 2. Is everybody clear?
If you're for, you're for 2.
All in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. All opposed to the amendment, raise your hand. Motion carries.
Yes, point of personal privilege, please.
Can we call like a 10-minute bio break so we can look at the numbers? I think everybody's, like this was so long, nobody's looked at the numbers, so
Yes.
that gives everybody.
Give me 1 second before I answer that. You said 15 minutes, right?
Didn't say 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's what I heard. All right, is there a second to 15 minutes? Okay. Is there objection? Hear no objection.
There is no measure.
were able to get everything sorted out. We are back to order, and I do recognize a quorum. And last I remember, we were in the middle of a motion, which I will bring up on the screen. Let me, on these changes, check all changes. We're back to the original motion. And if anyone has anything they would like to move or, yes.
I'd like to make a motion to change the 13,000 number.
Okay.
13,000 number, which, yes, to 11,000.
That?
Yes, thank you.
Is there a second to this motion?
Second.
Okay. Before I go into discussing everything, is there objection to this motion?
Objection.
There is objection. Okay, do you want to speak to your motion?
Yes, that number takes us to 447 potential delegates from affiliated counties. I believe that would help fulfill the potential of our ability to make money on the convention. And it will hopefully drive improvement for counties that perhaps haven't always filled up their allocation.
Point of information.
Point of information.
We put the spreadsheet up on the.
Yeah.
You can plug in 11,000.
We absolutely
And
can.
look at what that does.
All right. 11,000. And let me stay up here. Okay. You want me to scroll down, or is this view good?
Could we just call out, how many delegates each county gets down to until it gets to 4?
Okay, absolutely. Let me, and I'll blow it up a little so we can all read along. Harris.
You can get rid of it.
I'm sorry?
You can get rid of the ribbon too.
I'm not going to worry about that. Harris, 38. Dallas, 32. Travis, 27. Baird, 25. Tarrant, 23. Collin, 13. Denton, 12. El Paso, 12. Williamson, 10. Fort Bend, 9. Hidalgo, 7. Montgomery, 6. Hayes, 5. Cameron, 5. Brazoria, 5. And everything else is 4.
Point of information.
Point of information.
The spreadsheet that I am using, which is the original one, unchanged, has slightly different numbers.
Yes. So it was pointed out to me that the spreadsheet that I put into the forum, and I haven't verified this, but I'll trust it, lacked the numbers for the governor election. It had all the other elections, but didn't have governor. So that's the reason for the discrepancy.
So this is correct. Point of information. This is more accurate.
To my knowledge, the motion right now is based on the accurate vote. So if we find out one spreadsheet or the other isn't accurate, it's based on the votes. But to my knowledge, this is the accurate sheet.
Is that included where?
Well, geez, please. Point of information.
Point of information, yes.
Could you please change that number to 10,000? From
10?
11,000 to 10?
I can change the number to 10,000, but we have a motion right now.
Right. However, it was based on my understanding that we would have 447 total possible delegates from affiliated counties, because part of my goal.
Yeah, 10,000 goes 433.
Of course, you can offer a friendly amendment to the
Yeah, I was
council.
I'd like to have to make it.
There's no such thing.
Yeah,
So someone else has to make it amendment, correct?
Yeah.
Motion to amend, his motion to amend the motion to amend, to change it 11,000 to 10,000, as it was a simple math error.
Is there a second to that? There's a second.
Is that motion?
Yes. An amendment to the amendment. And we are 2 amendments deep, so I'm just going to put here. Okay, so we have 3 levels to decide from right now. All right. I'm guessing there's going to be objection. So, do you wish to speak to your amendment to the amendment?
I'm really good at math, and I screw up all the time, so I'm just doing it to cut to the chase and get to what he intended and not fight about it for an hour.
Okay. All right, with that said, I'm trying not to get us in the weeds. Yeah, I know. So let me just say, let me give some numbers. real quick. I'm going to give the top 5 so we don't have to go through all of them. Harris 42, Dallas 35, Travis 30, Bear 27, Tarrant 26. Organized potential delegates is 433. That's where that number would put us. And I'll work on this about.
Just a more point of information, let's look at the bottom and see how many more get 5.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So on the 5s, we have quite a few 5s. We have Hayes, Cameron, Brazoria, Nueces, Galveston, and Bell at 5. So those are our 5s. So,
Point of information.
Yes.
We also get alternates in the same number as each county has delegates.
Correct.
And we're not even counting them off.
Correct. So,
Okay, so wait a minute, does that mean that if we have 433 there, we could have potentially max 866 in the room?
yes. All right. That's it. Okay. So,
I need more space after all.
order. All right. So we got through the points of information. I think we all understand the issue. We can debate if we want, but I think it's a pretty easy one to just go to a vote on. So is there anyone seeking to be recognized? I see nobody. Yes.
I'm speaking, of course, with mostly Bear County perspective, and I realize we're making this decision for the entire state. But these spots, to me, I think should be at a level where they're competitive, and that's partly on our shoulders in our counties to do that, using NODA. But there is an urge, I've noticed, to just, we have the seats, so we should try to fill them. And I think if we just have a bunch of open seats, the delegates who are just the people that happen to show up, and we have people show up that candidates have brought in or whatever that know nothing about the process, and we can try to teach them in 3 hours how this works and what's meaningful. But they're going to want to fill seats regardless of our understanding of it. So I just want us to consider if these numbers have a limit, obviously, on them, we should consider for each of our counties how competitive we want these to be. And looking at these numbers, I would not want to go below 12,000 based on my view of Bear County. Make it competitive based on past turnout in my history with the party. But like Tarrant County, I know is having a rough time because the Republicans are not getting votes down, so it affects the delegate totals. And Bear County did better this past time, so we're going to get more delegate spots. But I just want us to keep in mind competitive seats, what's the proper number for the state?
Ms. Scripter.
So, it's more of a question.
Okay.
Because I'm obviously for more delegates, because I love having lots of delegates. But the question is, according to what I was reading in the rules, there is nothing that states in the rules that we cannot allow a county to decide for itself a lower number of delegates. So if the county executive committee would like to choose to have a lower number of delegates, would there be a way for us to word this so that we can say this is the maximum number of primary delegates? Because I didn't see in the rules when I was just reading them anything that excludes counties from changing that for themselves.
So I'm going to try and answer that. It's actually a fairly complex question. So, the state delegates to the counties how many delegates the counties can send to the state. That's our job, and that's what we're doing now. If the county wants to, through multiple means, whether it be through their bylaws and how they select delegates, or by just voting NODA as a group, if they choose to themselves not fill those spots, there is nothing the state can, or I would say cares to do to force them to fill those spots. However, it does not change the state's position of how many are allowed. Does that answer your question?
It does answer my question. Does that help anybody?
Yes.
I'm going to disagree with you, John. I think the Texas election code says that the state executive committee shall apportion delegates by population or party strength. So I think that it is the state committee that does.
I agree with your statement, and I don't actually think we're disagreeing at any point. I'm just saying it is fine for a county to not fill those. They could in fact send one delegate.
Yes, but not putting in their bylaws that, the state gave us 20, but we're only going to allow ourselves to have 15.
What I meant by that is more to the point of only people who get 2/3 vote in favor of them are allowed, and then not everybody does. But anyway.
I'm speaking in opposition to the 10,000.
Okay, yes, let me bring the motion back up. Go ahead, please.
I usually have disdain for what I call Goldilocks politics, not too conservative, not too liberal, just right. Not too liberty, not too tyranny. But in this case, I think there is a point beyond which you kind of eliminate the whole idea of this. When you get to the point where you can't fill, almost every county can't fill their delegation, then I think we've gone a little bit too far. And I would like to, I would like to back off the 10,000. So I will be voting against the amendment for 10,000 to try to kind of back it off just a little bit.
Awesome. Mr. Farmer?
I'm also speaking against this. Tom and I are in agreement. I think this just goes a little too far. We are not all fulfilling our delegations as it is. And even by the time Friday night comes around, Saturday night comes around, even some of the bigger counties are not able to fill, even with our alternates, to fill in just the people who have left already. I'm going to be voting against 10,000. It just seems like too much to me.
Mr. Vansickle?
I'd like to speak for the 10,000. I don't feel that the bigger counties should be punished because other counties can't fill their delegates. And my perspective is very much from one, I reside in a county that could send plenty of delegates. We have an active group of folks that would want to go. And I think that limiting that, any action that would limit the amount of people beyond a measure of reason would constrain how much we deal with.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I guess mine's more of maybe a rhetorical question. But I guess to me the risk is if we drop it and we allow more delegates, would that allow access for an outside force to grab those delegate spots if we can't find good libertarians to fill them? I'm just going to ask that as a potential risk. I'm still thinking about that.
Would the body object to me kind of responding to that?
Go ahead.
Okay. It has been my experience in the past that there's an interesting economic mechanism for not allowing that. Yes, an outside entity, maybe a Republican, maybe Democrat, maybe another third party, could try to send people, convince them to not vote in primaries and come to our convention and then dissuade us and change our platform in some way. The economic measure that prevents that from happening actually has nothing to do with what we do here. It has everything to do with the fact that right now at this moment, we're not electing people, and there is a cost associated with doing that. So they're going to have to spend money and resources to send people to affect our party. As we elect more people, the cost to do that goes up. So it's the same reason of why you don't counterfeit money. It would be very expensive to do it, and it would cost you more than the money you would get back in return. So that's.
I'm going to speak against this. There's such thing as having too many slots, and I think this reaches that point. In Harris County, and you'll find this out too, if you start having competitive races for your state delegates, when more people want to be delegates than you have slots, you have to have a secret written ballot. In Harris County, when we had ballots for 33 delegates, well, we had 60-something ballots. We had to hand count them. And it took an hour and a half or more for delegates, and then you have more alternates. So if you want to have a whole day for your county convention, and most of it counting paper ballots, I mean, we got it down for 33, but I think it goes up, I don't know if exponentially, not the right word, but a lot more by a factor of that, because it's just, it's a hassle. I think what we've had 11,500 or even 11,000 would keep us in a range where we're gonna have to do more work and all our checks. So how much more work do you want to put on yourselves?
Ms. Scripture?
From my experience with precinct and county conventions, is the number of ballots that you count is according to the number of delegates from your precinct convention anyway, whichever thing everyone would want to fill out. So you're gonna have to count ballots, and there's, you know, it's not gonna make a difference the number of delegates you have versus the number of ballots that you're counting anyway.
That's not true. Number of votes.
All right, I see no one else seeking to be recognized. We can proceed to a vote. We're going to do this 3 times because we have 2 amendments deep. On changing the 11,000 to 10,000, all in favor of changing that 11,000 to 10,000, raise your hand. All opposed? Fails. All right, on changing the 13,000 to 11,000, all in favor of changing the 13,000 to 11,000, raise your hand. All opposed? That's closer. We're going to do a count. All in favor of changing it, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Here we go. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Passes. All right, let me accept these changes. Find my mouse. There we go. All right. If there's, Mr. Thomas.
I'll apologize in advance. Move to amend to make it 12,000. Second.
What was it before? Before it was 13?
Yeah, we did 10 and 11 and 13. We skipped 12.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right.
That's a sweet spot, baby.
I'll do the numbers.
We'll do this.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Show that on the.
We can all right. We can debate if you want, but I think we all understand the issue if we want to proceed to a vote on this.
Spreadsheet.
All right. You want to do the spreadsheet? Okay.
It's always.
You can do the spreadsheet. Let me go to the top. First, we'll look at the 5s first, because I know that was a point of interest earlier. Wait, whoa. Montgomery County is a 5, so that's our only 5. And then we'll go to the top 5. Harris 35, Dallas 29, Travis 25, Bear 23, Tarrant 22, and Organized County Potential Delegates 389. All right?
Point of personal privilege, can I get Colin?
Colin? Colin is 12. All right.
Why is it 12? We just voted for 11.
No, that was.
You made an amendment to 12. So, yes.
I would like to amend the amendment.
Okay.
You all have no debate.
Okay, we'll do it like this. I'll take that. Okay, so all right.
Yes. Before I second this, which I think I'm about to do.
Harris 37, Dallas 30, Travis 26, Bear 24, Tarrant 22, Colin 13, and Montgomery and Hazer 5s, and 398 total potential. I do have to ask on this one, Kathy, you wish to speak to this number?
Yes, I'm very impressed with Hays County and how they've grown,
Here.
Okay.
Point of information.
11,500. Point of information, yes.
We're at 11,000 on the original motion now, right?
11,500.
Oh,
the original motion is 11,000, yes.
Can we see what the 11,000 number is?
Sure.
On 11,000?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now you go down to Brazoria.
Harris 38, Dallas 32, Travis 27, Bear 25, Tarrant 23, Colin 13.
What is the right now?
Brazoria.
They go to 5.
Brazoria is 5. Okay. So, but that is not the number we're about to vote on. That is a different number. Yeah. Okay, so let's do this. All in favor of accepting the amendment to the amendment for 11,500, raise your hand. All opposed. I think that passes. I'm gonna count I think that one got it. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 in favor. All right. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
So you gotta put it in.
Was it 15?
What was 18?
It was 18,
Oh,
yes,
that's
that's right. Yeah, motion passes. All right, so we now, okay, here we go.
The amendment passed, not the motion.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the amendment passed.
So here's what we're gonna do. And actually, we can delete this one. And we're gonna state that one. Okay, sure. We'll do it like that. Okay. So, we now are voting on amending, and I'll recognize you in just a second, I want to make sure we're clear. We're voting on amending 11,000 to 11,500, Ms. Scripture.
I'd like to call the question.
Call all pending questions?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, I think we've exhausted this.
Okay.
Point of information.
What?
So my motion was for 12,000, and I thought Kathy's was 12,500.
11,000.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, keep on talking.
There's been a motion to call all pending questions. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Is there objection? I hear no objection. We can proceed to a vote on all of these. All in favor of changing 11,000 to 11,500, raise your hand. All opposed? That passes. All right. We are almost there. We are almost there. We have a motion. Oh, and we've called up any questions, so we will vote on this motion. All in favor of the motion as it appears on screen with 11,500 divider and a 4 minimum, raise your hand. All opposed? Guys, we did it. Let me get this saved.
B98.
Delegation goal is 420.
Okay, here we go. That's done. I don't even know where we're on the agenda. LNC report. Who's big? Yay! And we're pretty much on time. We're at 5 minutes ahead, actually.
Yeah, and then you guys are in the meeting.
You messed up this time.
Okay,
I think there are some new people here, so just in case you don't know, I'm Whitney Billieu. I live in Houston. I've been with the party since 2012. I'm currently serving as the representative for Region 7 to the National Committee, the Libertarian National Committee. So I represent Texas and 4 other states. You probably don't care about that. And on that committee. And we'll actually be meeting next weekend, Saturday and Sunday, also here in Austin, for our quarterly LNC meeting.
The meeting is 2 days?
It is 2 days, 2 full days. Yeah. Okay, so I did submit something. I actually sent it yesterday. I sent it to Arthur. I don't know if it made it anywhere, but I can get it to. There you go. Okay. Nothing real outrageous right now going on with the national. You can see there if you have that report who all of the officers are. You may notice there's a vacancy now. Lauren Doherty, who used to be one of our staff members for LP Texas, has been serving as development director for National for some years and was interim executive director while they were hiring a full-time replacement. And she has recently resigned that position, so as of the 31st of this month, she will no longer be our development director for National either. So we have a vacancy there. We're still trying to figure out how it's going to be filled. I think as of late this past week, they decided to go ahead and do a call for applicants to fill that position. So if anybody's interested in a job for the National Party, there's one way.
So are they giving her back to us?
What's that?
Are they giving her back to us? Because I'm cool.
I mean, I'm sure they would, but she's not coming back.
Is she leaving the LP?
No.
No.
Oh, the good thing is now she'll have more time to do stuff. Okay, just general, this is kind of the same thing all the time in the election section for national. We, as you guys know, we have some in the room, actually. We have more libertarians being elected throughout the years as we go. And so those are kind of trickling in, we're adding them to our list. A lot of them wind up being nonpartisan, so they don't always automatically get added to our list of elected libertarians. Kind of depends on the race they ran and some of the circumstances there, but we do have libertarians getting elected all over the country right now. The National has set a goal to have 200 candidates nationwide, and then their goal this time around will be 70 wins, in addition to what we already have. And of course, our ballot access goal is 50 to be on the ballot in all 50 states plus DC for our presidential. Some events there. Kind of tried to do them in chronological order. Tomorrow night, if anybody's interested, I actually just kind of caught this myself right before I headed here. But tomorrow night there's a conference called National Does This, where they'll have experts in a certain area put on conference calls for like VIP members or for whoever can get on the call, and to talk about specific matters, single issues or anything that might be of interest to libertarians. So I've got the information on there. You can just click the link there to talk about or to hear about that. You don't actually typically get to participate in these calls. You just listen in. If depending on how many attendees there are, sometimes we'll open it up for Q&A at the end, but there's never a guarantee of that.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Just a quick question. So do we have a stronger relationship with the Cato Institute than we've had recently? Because from what I understand, back in the 90s, we had a strong relationship with Cato, and the 80s.
I can't speak on that, but to my knowledge, no. I don't know of it being any different than it is now, but I may not be the best person to ask that. All right, so then, of course, the LNC meeting that I already mentioned, that's actually going to be at the hotel where the convention will take place next year. So you get an opportunity to get a sneak peek if you decide to go there. There will be a social event Saturday night at Cooper's Barbecue, which is listed there. It is a fundraiser, so the tickets are $40 each. I'm not sure if there's a cap on that as far as like a maximum number of attendees, but if you're interested, check it out, see if it's something you want to do. And then of course the convention is going to be Memorial Weekend next year, again, here in Austin. That's a longer event because it's presidential year, so we add a day to that convention. I don't know if you guys realize that at National Convention mentioned last year, the delegates changed the order of the agenda for national, so now the presidential nomination and vice presidential nominations are last. We're waiting now to see how that hopefully we get. With regard to financing and fundraising, just another category that I can report a little bit on, you'll see there the last little item is just some financial notes about the National Party. A couple things related to fundraising that National is trying. We have a new executive director, his name is Dan Fishman, and he's trying a couple new things. One of the things that he has floated out there for the LNC is to consider is the idea of having a commission-based fundraising plan for this year. This was not met with good response. He has proposed offering an opportunity for the chairman to earn commission on any successful fundraising that the chairman does. The LNC basically has kind of decided that that would be something for the delegates to decide whether or not we can have a paid chairman. So we're not considering it. It is not currently being voted on or considered. But then the next thing, which is why now they decided to go ahead and try to post the executive director position. Because what we don't want is to not have money coming in, like Lauren was bringing. Right.
Excuse me.
Yes.
So Daniel Fishman does get paid on the commission?
Daniel Fishman is the executive director, he's a salary employee.
So, pure, there is no option.
All right, so another thing that he's trying, that might be of interest to some people in here, is he is trying to implement an incentive-based fundraising program for what he's calling content producers. And specifically right now, we're looking at podcasters. If there are podcasters out there who are producing content and who have shows that meet our criteria in terms of libertarian principles, and they reflect well on the party, whatever the criteria is, they can apply to be eligible to receive, incentive, like a percentage of a membership. So every time someone, for example, clicks on a link through someone's podcast, if it's an approved podcast group, and someone signs up to be a member through that podcast, then those podcasters of that group would get a percentage of the membership dues that were paid. Does that make sense? Yes. There is an application process. The content producers have to be approved for this. The contract for that is currently under review by our special counsel. So we have yet to see how that works out. And then there you can see just that last little detail under finances, our current financial situation. So far, to date, we've had, I think it's about $644,000 in revenue, and then you can see the net. Our monthly operating budget, our break-even point at National, I think is about $110,000 a month. So just to give you some perspective. Regional news, nothing's really specific out there, but just for those of you who don't know, there are the states that Region 7 includes. And for those of you who don't know, Erin Adams of Oklahoma is my alternate. So we have 22 reps, and she and I work together on a lot of things. We're both at all the meetings, and so if I have to get up and go by, she sits in. So we never have vacancies for our region. So good job. Just some other notes there. I tried in this section to put some of the legal or the lawsuits or any litigation that we're involved in. Of course, I can't get them all. National was involved in a lot. Oliver Hall is involved in a lot. So I don't put them on here, but every once in a while I pull out some that might be relevant. We have, and that tidbit about the presidential candidates. Some of you may already know that, but in case you're wondering, there's been about 70 people who have expressed interest and have called the party asking. As of now, we have maybe 5 that have actually officially declared it. I don't have all the names. The Libertarian National Committee versus Holiday, that is one related to getting into debates. At this point, we're still waiting for any results on that. And then the Libertarian National Committee versus the FEC, I don't know if you guys were following that, but that one was related to requests when someone dies, they can have it in a will that they're leaving money to the party. The FEC only allows us to access the $33,900, whatever it is per year, that a living person would be allowed to contribute. There's a maximum. And so even upon someone's death, they still can't give us money, all the money that they willed to us. So for example, if someone has left us $100,000, we can only take out $33,000 and some change each year. And so it's gone. So this went all the way to the Court of Appeals, the DC Circuit, and several of us went to watch those arguments. And that was a pretty interesting experience. This was the full court with the exception of Kavanaugh. I think he was the one missing that day, for obvious reasons. And, yeah. So we finally got a decision. We actually got a decision faster than we thought. It was not in our favor. But there were 3 dissenting judges, and they actually made some pretty impactful statements that we think will help us move forward, because we're going to keep pushing on it. I expect it'll go to the Supreme Court. So you can read more about that at that link as well. So that's all I have. Other than just promoting the National Convention for next year, of course. I am on the Convention Oversight Committee for that. I will be needing lots of volunteers. So I expect you guys to be around for that. For those of you who don't know, also we have a Facebook group. It's not a discussion group. It's very okay?
Don't
it is, see, I've already had to take some years to follow.
Yes, you
It's LNC Region 7. And you do have to answer some questions before you get in. I do keep it very strictly to Region 7 members only. So only people who are actually members in one of my 5 states. I don't even let national executives or the officers in there or at-large members unless I have to kick an at-large member out this week too. Because you know one lives in Texas. So the purpose of it is for me to disseminate information that comes from national. If I've got a vote that I'm struggling with and I want feedback from you guys, I would put it in there. It's a way for me to quickly reach out to the state chairs that I represent. And it's sometimes an opportunity for us to share, for you guys to share information with the rest of our region. However, there are some things that just don't need to be there. It's not, like I said, it's not meant to be a discussion group unless there's something specific that I'm trying to iron out for a vote, or if there's an issue facing one of our regional affiliates and the rest of us, need to provide some support or whatever. So, but you're welcome to try LNC Region 7. It's easy to get approved on there. Basically, you just answer whether or not you live in one of the states in our region. And that's basically it. Yes.
So last cycle, we were pretty late getting our credential committee nominee to national. Do you know when we're supposed to do that?
Nope. I do not. I don't know. I have to ask whoever.
Because I think last time.
I'll ask the
we were
secretary
supposed to do
about
it like August, and we were pretty late, and so I was the nominee for Texas.
You guys have not had to send our credentials committee nominee from Texas to national yet? Have you received that info yet?
No,
Okay. They just may not have asked yet. But next week I'll know.
Okay.
Because we'll have our meeting next week, so.
All right.
This may be right off the time that they do that call.
Yeah.
But that's a good question. You also reminded me, I know that you guys were already talking about money and fundraising, raising money for this organization and all that. We've also been talking about delegates. I know that if you're on Facebook, you probably have already seen this. I mean, my husband was the one who was doing a lot of plugging on this, but for national, the way the delegates are chosen, the way they're allocated is there's a maximum number of delegates we can have. I think it's 1,094 at our national convention. And those are broken up by state affiliate proportionally. And that is based on the number of sustaining members from each state at the national level. So if you are a member of the national party, and as Kathy mentioned earlier, there was a time when joining national meant that you were automatically a member of your state. That is not the case anymore, and each state actually comes up with their own rules about whether or not you're a membership. Some states, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Arkansas does that if you join national, they automatically recognize your state membership. But it's not automatic, they're not interchangeable. So if our delegation in our state wanted to have more delegates at national, the way to get those is to have more members at the national level. Or in other words, paying dues to the national party.
Just information, that's, if we do the one-time $25 charge, that has a count. Is that correct?
As far as I know, it does, but it has to be done by October 31st.
Right.
October 31st is the cutoff date for that. And I will say that just one more person becoming a member doesn't automatically add another delegate. There's no formula, and I don't understand it. So, exactly.
Yes.
No.
So anyway, October 31st is the deadline for that. I think last year we were eligible for 71. We thought we had all the spots filled, but then people didn't show, which was pretty tragic.
Upset.
Was upsetting.
There was poor communication to the delegates prior to that. Seriously poor communication last cycle to the delegates. From our delegation.
So the delegates that were.
From our delegation captain, there was not information passed back and forth. I had to do a lot of work that our delegation captain was supposed to do. So I want to be careful with that next time.
Well, make a note. And we can try to iron that out for next time. So yeah, that's how you get your delegate count up if you think it's necessary. But, you know, going back to some conversations you guys were having earlier, what's the point if we're not going to fill the seat anyway? So, and if we need to fill the seats we have.
Yes.
But of course, become a member of national, that's my job. Any other questions? Thank you.
Next we have Ms. Young.
Hey, everybody. Okay. We have been talking about the mission vision statement for quite a while, right? And today our objective is to adopt the mission statement for LPTEX. Okay? So I thought I'd start by going through a recap for what we've done. So you can start. Yeah. We started off with looking at the difference between a vision and a mission statement. What we're looking to do today will be the vision statement. Once we establish the vision statement, then we go through from there for the mission statement. Okay? So the vision statement is going to give us our goals, our future, what we're aspiring to. It's like the big picture for us. So that's where we want to start. And then we went through looking at what makes a good vision statement. It should be less than 20 words, what it should say, talk about our future aspirations. And so that's what we want for a good vision statement. Okay, and then we talked about how it sets our guideposts and roadmap. And so we identified some companies, we talked about that, we looked at their vision statements and their mission statements. We then talked about establishing a strategic framework for LP Texas. If we start with the right vision statement that we all can get behind, set up our mission statement. Our vision statement, again, is our aspirations. Then we set our mission statement. Then we begin to coordinate that within our strategies, our committees, our chapters. All of us begin to speak sort of together the same language, and we become more of a force. It'll improve our messaging, our effectiveness, our fundraiser. We'll just all be on the same page with everything. Okay? That's the idea. every function would support that mission and vision. Okay. We next put out a survey, asked you, what did you see as the aspirations for LP Texas? And we asked you, what did you see in 5 years? What does a successful LP Texas look like to you? And any other comments? You submitted your response back, and do you remember what the overwhelming response was from everybody that submitted their survey of what they wanted for the aspirations of LP Texas? Remember it all? Anybody remember? Okay, we'll go through that. It was winning elections. Everybody came back and said they want to win elections. Okay? We then went to adopt. We agreed that LP Texas would establish a mission and a vision statement. And myself and Chelsea was asked to give you some options on that, which we posted on the forum. Okay, so that kind of brings us up. So the vision statement that most selected agreed to is we aspire to achieve political influence by winning elections that support individual freedoms and minimum state intervention. Okay? Then from that, then we'll make our mission statement, and I'll get more feedback. We have some feedback already. But that would get us started. Now, you may say, what about changing the word here, there? That'll always come up. And I'll say, if we start and see how we can work that through, I think we hit the major things that you had in mind that you said you wanted. You want to win elections. So if you say that a couple of times before we leave, it's kind of easy to say. We aspire, what we're aspiring to, achieve political influence. They're not going to vote for you or give you money unless you influence them. Okay? By winning elections that support individual freedoms and minimum state intervention. And that's the same thing, liberty, freedom, same thing. Okay? That's just our start. So what I would want to do today, if you're there, is to make a motion to make this our vision statement. And we would have to, I understand, to keep it going. It would expire in 2020 if we don't put it in the, I think, the policy manual. I should ask John. He had that down. We see the vote here, the motion here. Otherwise, it would expire at the end, at the 2020 convention. So if you want to get it set, and then from there, I would ask you also for more input on the mission statement, and then we will work that through as well. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Pretty much? Okay. Any questions about that, or?
Are you moving it?
Pardon?
Are you moving?
Can we get a motion? I can make a motion. Okay.
Point of information,
Yes.
what's the threshold for changing the policy manual? Is that 2/3 of you? Or is it just simple majority?
Majority.
I think so.
It's 2/3.
I think it's two, I just want to make sure. What's the rule on changing the policy?
Yeah, okay.
Billion used to be on the policy.
So they never end?
Okay, so our motion, this would be the motion, are we ready for that, or are we talking about the?
Before we make the motion, I'm sorry, I just need to know. Is it 2/3?
I'm looking it up.
Arthur, I think that.
It's a majority.
I think
It's simple majority?
Why don't we take the vote? If it's over 2/3, I don't need to look it up. True.
Good call.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so the motion is to adopt the following vision statement for SLEC. We aspire to achieve political influence by winning elections that support individual freedoms and minimum state intervention.
I'm second the motion.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second.
I'd like to amend,
Have a motion to amend.
change the S in state to lowercase.
That's improper grammar.
I believe lowercase is proper grammar. There is no specific state we're talking about.
It's proper to capitalize.
I second.
Are we talking about state Texas or state being 25% over?
George,
We're talking about government.
I know what we're talking about. We're talking that.
We're talking about property.
It is not property. What state is it?
So, I can't control John's laptop to make a change to the amendment, but the motion to amend is to make the S in state a lowercase s. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, is there any discussion, any objection?
Object.
Objection.
And can I speak to it?
Well, George, would you like to speak to your amendment?
It's basically that there's no particular state being, the statement is not directed at any particular state, so it's not a proper noun, so it is not capitalized.
Liz, would you like to speak in opposition?
Yes. The opposition to this, and it's not really a sticking point for me, but grammatically, we're talking about the state as an entity, which is a proper noun at this point. Capitalizing it is grammatically correct, but if we don't want to be grammatically correct,
Anybody else want to speak in favor? Question? John?
We have to amend the amendment.
I'm going to do that.
We said change it to government.
Let me recognize Kathy.
I'm able to amend the amendment by deleting state and inserting government with a lowercase g.
Second.
Second. Get that?
Yes.
We have a motion to amend the amendment and a second. The motion to amend the amendment is to strike the word state entirely and replace it with the word government with a lowercase g. Everybody clear? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any objection?
Point of information.
Point of information.
Is that government or government?
Government.
Now, I had a question. Is her intention to refer directly to the state of Texas in which case she should tax, or is it a metaphysical concept of the state?
It was like a metaphysical, because overall, when we first started talking about it before, because everything goes with the government to state. So it's kind of like a play on that, instead of, so in order to be a little bit more.
Specific, it's capital.
Whitney. Order.
I have a piece of information related to the policy manual, but I will share it after you dispose of this.
Yes.
Tom?
I was going to speak for her motion.
Yes, you may.
We know what when you talk about when we say the state, but other people don't. So they say state, what state of Texas, what are you talking about? Government, no. And some people might say, well, you just talk about English about the state government. No, we're talking about national, federal, local, municipal, everything. So I think government.
Liz?
I'd like to call the question on the government.
All right, there's a motion to call the question. Second. All in favor of calling the question? All opposed? Motion carries. So now we're voting on the amendment to strike the word state and insert the word government. Everybody clear? All in favor, say aye, or raise your hand. Sorry, I'm chairman of another board. All opposed? Motion carries. So now we're back to the, maybe you can make the change that I couldn't. Couldn't control your computer.
Okay, if y'all give me just a second to catch up here. So, somebody correct me. I just Alright, so, review.
Point of privilege.
1 second, we will deal with that in just a second. Okay, I'm gonna get clear on where we are, and then I'll recognize point of privilege, and then I'll recognize Whitney. First things first. That was a second level amendment, so now we're to a primary amendment. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
That passed.
That passed.
The second level amendment passed.
Right.
We're down to the first level amendment. Okay.
It's just now we're
It was capital.
Yeah, it's
Well, okay. So we're to the first level amendment. Okay. Now there was a point of personal privilege. Oh, you just wanted Whitney recognized. Whitney, please.
This kind of goes back to the discussion we were having earlier and what I heard Marion say about how this theoretically would expire at the end of the term. It can't go in the policy manual then, because the policy manual is permanent, and the policy manual itself actually has its own mission statement. So I don't think that that is an appropriate place. And for the record, just so you guys know, I actually don't get a vote in what you're doing today, but I am eligible to participate in the discussion, which is why I'm allowed to speak right now. But I'm saying I don't think it's appropriate for this to be in the policy manual for those two reasons. That the policy manual does remain after every term expires. So a mission statement that's in there, I don't think that makes sense.
This is a mission. That's a mission statement.
Either way, if it's expiring at the end of the term, it's not appropriate in the policy manual.
No. She said she wants to put it in policy meeting so it won't expire.
Oh, I thought she was saying she did want it to expire.
No, I'm saying, no, don't want it. I don't want it.
Oh, okay.
Request for information,
Point of information?
request for
Yes.
information. Since I'm being the grammar Nazi here, question about the policy manual updates. Is there a different threshold for votes to modify the policy manual?
No.
What's the threshold?
Majority.
Majority of the whole body or just right here?
The majority of those voting.
So we could, as SLEC, amend the policy manual anytime we want, regardless of what happens in
Correct.
convention?
Yes.
I think we should think about that.
Point of information.
Point of information, yes.
Is government capitalized?
Point of information.
My understanding is the amendment we voted on was to replace the small s state with government. We have not voted on replacing the large s state with government.
I think you're actually flipped, but the original motion was to replace small s state with big s state.
No.
Other way around, so big s state with small s state, and then to replace that with government. That then replaced small s state, so now we're going to vote on whether to replace government with big s state.
Replace
The small s state, okay. All right.
I don't think a big S state.
Sorry, you live in the event.
I would like to move to amend to eliminate everything after the quotation, the end quotation.
Oh, but we're not there yet. We need to wait. Okay. All right. So now I think this one's going to be easy. So let's see. We are now moving, since we have replaced small s state with government, we're now going to vote on whether to replace big S state with government. All right? All in favor of replacing big S state with government, raise your hand. All opposed? That passes. So I'm going to accept all pending changes. Okay, now, Mr. Pryor.
I would like to move to amend by eliminating every word after the end quotation.
Second.
And I'll speak to that motion.
Please.
I actually think it's a really cool idea for every new select to create their own vision statement.
Oh.
And so putting this into the policy manual, I don't care for that. But I like this statement, and I like having a vision statement.
Okay. Is there anyone to speak against? Mr. Glass?
Yeah, so one of the cool things about policy manual is, in the rule that we changed, which says it'll hold over, is the idea when we passed that rule to hold over was that future SLECs have the ability, anytime they want, to change that policy manual. The policy manual is not the rules, it's something a little bit lower level than the rules, and it allows us to do what we want. I think we did some more rules about that, about there's even another category of things in SLEC. But policy manual was always meant to be something that SLEC could control. And the reason why we did the keep it in perpetuity thing is because it was always a big, humongous effort for any new SLEC when they were brand new to go through and adopt the policy. It was like, okay, do you just go in and rubber stamp it? Or do you, so it created all sorts of problems. So I like the idea of holding things over. If the body wants to change it, I think it's a good I agree with Ben that it's a good exercise for each SLEC to kind of go through that. But to keep a vision statement from here forward until somebody wants to change it, I think is a pretty good idea. So that's why I will respectfully voting against this.
Okay. Ms. Lapp?
Call the question.
Move to call the question. Is this just from the amendment or the?
Just for the amendment.
Okay. I heard a second. Is there any objection to calling the question? All right. I hear nothing. All in favor of Mr. Farmer's amendment to strike everything after the quotation that would effectively make it not in the policy manual? All in favor of that, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion fails. So, we are now to the motion. Let me reject all changes real quick. I saw Mr. Thomas.
I know the goal is to keep it short, but I was going to move to amend to say after winning elections and influencing legislation, and the grammar people could check me, but I think that would mean support needs an S.
By winning elections.
And influencing legislation.
Okay. That's support. Like this.
No, that's support individual freedom. Oh, elections.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Cool. Is there a second to this?
Second.
Do you want to speak to it?
You agree or don't?
I would like to speak for this. This is to recognize the importance of our participation in the legislative process during session, even if we have not, unfortunately, elected someone into the state house.
If I can just say, you're gonna have a mission statement that's gonna really get into the nuts and bolts of how you want this to do. Keep it big so we can get it. And then when you come back for your mission statement, then you can put all of the things that you want to lead up to that.
Thank you, Michelle. I'll take that as an against.
Speaking for, I take your point, but the way it read before, it was basically saying that elections support individual freedom and then government intervention. So grammatically, it wasn't achieving the intent of the statement. This is a clarification.
Okay. All right. Anyone else speak? Mr. Emily?
I want to propose an amendment or move to amend that to replace influencing with promoting legislation. It just sounds weird to say we want to achieve influence by influencing.
Actually, we'll do it like this.
Yeah.
I'll let you
There we go.
Is that been seconded?
That has been seconded. Do you want to speak to your?
I just think it rings better. Just sounds better.
Ms. Black?
Call the question.
Oh, okay. Okay. Any objection to calling the question? No objection. All in favor of the amendment to replace influencing with promoting, raise your hand. All opposed? Passes. So there we go. We're here. And if there's nothing else, we can proceed to a vote on the amendment. All in favor of this amendment to the statement, raise your hand. All opposed? Passes. All right.
Move to amend.
All right.
This may be really nitpicky, but move that we replace the word freedoms with liberty. We're libertarians, not freedomtarians, and so as a branding thing, just, it's picky, but
Liberty or liberties?
individual liberties, I guess, sure. Is that the
Yes.
more open?
No liberty.
Yeah, I like
Okay, is it liberty or liberties? Plural or singular?
Singular.
I'm gonna go with liberty. That's what I said. If someone else amend it, then we do that.
Liberty. Liberty single. He's replacing the word freedom.
Individual liberty.
Okay. All right. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Call question.
Second on the question. Is there an objection to call the question? I hear no objection. All in favor of replacing the word freedoms with liberty, raise your hand. All opposed? Passes? All right, we're moving right along. Okay. Mr. Farmer.
Call the question.
Is there objection to calling the question? There is objection. We'll now vote on calling the question. All in favor of calling the question, raise your hand. All opposed? Okay, carries. All in favor of adopting this motion, raise your hand. All opposed? Passes.
John, I think there was something missing.
A period?
Okay, well, hold on. Let me get this saved, and I'll save it again if I need
It's
to.
just a grammar change, it can be updated. Things of substance can be changed with little syntax things.
That was one concern.
Yeah, it's just a syntax.
Well, I thought something else.
Okay.
John, can I make a, John?
1 second. Let me get this done before we do anything. Okay, you thoughts?
I just want to say thank everybody and give Team Conference on your mission statement, because that's going to be a little bit more detailed about the specifics of how we're going to get there. So we'll get started on that as well.
Thank you.
To be placed under, something might have gotten erased at some point. It just doesn't.
You're saying it should be a capital T?
I thought there was
The
another.
period should go away and then move, just keep joining the statement. It looks like.
Something, yeah, like something got changed.
Oh, yes, excuse me, I can explain. When we considered the motion to remove everything after the double quote, we changed the comma to a period. That's it. And when we restored it, we did not restore the comma. So it's government intervention, comma.
But we don't need a motion to fix that.
Right. I'm just,
Syntax.
Government intervention, comma?
yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So, okay, I got you. Yeah, this,
We're good on it.
yeah, we're good. Okay, cool. I'll close that.
Request for information on that.
Yes.
I'm no grammar Nazi, I'm sure we got something for him, but is minimum the correct use? You're saying minimal.
I don't know, but this is passed. So. Okay, so.
You can take that up on
Next up, order. Okay, next up is motions relating to org structure changes. This is actually held over from the last meeting. It was on the end of the agenda, didn't get brought up. So under our current policy, I can, with notification to the executive committee, make changes to the structure of our volunteer organization, and then those have to be approved at an in-person meeting. I've made 2 changes, maybe 3 depending on how you look at it. One is public relations was renamed to, or PR was renamed to communications. That's one change. And 2, we had before an IT manager that fell under operations. We then pulled that out to make IT its own department and made that an IT director. Those are the 2 changes. And that's pretty non-controversial. I will entertain a motion to accept those changes. All right. Any objection? All right, we're on
Yeah, he needs his own department.
I was a little worried we were going to demote you, Lee. I was like, well, that's fair. And last we have Renee Perez as a legislative session report, and let me get to that. That's a different one. Sorry, I got a few files here. And it's 4:20.
Yay!
Good job.
No pressure, Renee.
Smoke your hell.
Renee, can you come over here? Is this legislative priorities report? Is that it? Just want to make sure I pulled the right one. There's a few of them in here now.
And that actually is my point, to keep it brief, 420 notwithstanding. So I kind of cheated here a little bit by bringing up the same presentation that was made in December. That way, in case there were any questions from the floor regarding some of the things we discussed, because it was kind of a lengthy discussion, I wanted to make sure nothing got left out. So let's have the first slide. So what I mostly wanted to speak about were these three bills, and what I learned from it, because this was a really huge learning process for me in regards to what it takes to lobby in the State House. Thankfully, I was able to get a lot of instruction from Heather Fazio with the Texans for responsible marijuana policy. She is a very special person. She's been very generous with her time and her patience, infinite amount of patience. And I believe by following her, watching her, listening to her, I think I will be learning enough so that our 2021 effort will be much more productive. So starting off with House Bill 1365, that was the one supported by Texans for responsible marijuana policy. This one increased the number of medical conditions from 1 to 25. It was a very ambitious effort. It had a tremendous amount of support, passed easily. Unfortunately, there was House Bill 3703, which was put in by Stephanie Click, who was the original creator of the Compassionate Use Program, and she only added 2 conditions. She had some things in there for starting research within the state of Texas. That also passed, and now I got to learn about the real power in the State House, which is the committees.
Yes.
It was a very difficult lesson. What happened was, Donna Campbell, the secretary, the chair of the Senate Health and Human Services Committee, she only listed House Bill 3703 on the agenda. When that was announced, that set off a flurry of activity of the medical cannabis support groups. It was stressful, but very enlightening. I ran into many other groups that were going from office to office to lobby to get House Bill 1365 onto that same hearing. I think we made some new friends in the course of the running around the State House, which was an effort on its own. I was able to go from all of the relevant offices, including the Lieutenant Governor. And here was one of the critical lessons that I learned. So what happened was, we were all sort of beating a path throughout the State House. Got to the point where every office I went into, they already had a legal pad filled out with names and addresses, because they were checking to make sure that the people that were showing up were registered voters in the state of Texas. It was very, very educational, a little stressful, especially when I got up to the Lieutenant Governor's office, because well, guys, they didn't seem to be very interested in hearing. It was kind of like, yeah, you're another one, okay. But it worked. That was the magic of it. Didn't work all that great. The House Bill 3703 went to 9 conditions, so we were able to add 7 conditions to that list. Unfortunately, PTSD was not amongst them, and that was rather heartbreaking considering the testimony given in the hearing that day, the next morning. And as you all know, that's what passed. I wanted to throw in a couple of things about House Bill 1325. That's the one that made hemp to be allowed hemp to be sold in Texas, or excuse me, made grown in Texas. In case y'all haven't heard, there was a session just a couple of days ago, and they're going to spend extra money to be able to determine the difference between hemp and cannabis. So there's a lot of excited people in the state of Texas. Don't get your hopes up. They're going to spend the money. One tiny glimmer of hope on House Bill 63. There's a story I've been trying to follow around. It appears that a mistake may have been made between a member of the Senate who, I guess he gets helped a lot by the office aides, and they may have sent out a tweet from him that was meant to talk about a different House bill, and it's possible Dan Patrick thought that it was his affirming that decriminalization would not happen in the state of Texas, and because Dan Patrick apparently was quick on the draw to show that I'm with you, and when in reality, if not for that tweet, he may have gone with the GOP platform plank, which was for marijuana decriminalization. So I'm still following that up. There's other things that are a lot of other details that I'll go to on the forums. I'm hoping to keep you guys engaged on the forums because there's so much detail going on. It's there's no way I can give it justice with a short presentation here. Next slide, please. Election integrity. Well, you guys already know about House Bill 2504. Believe it or not, House Bill 4416 is going to be back in 2021. They actually, excuse me.
Of course.
Yeah. They. I didn't know you could do this, but you can table a bill to the next session. So
No, it's not going to be filed. No, it's just a procedural motion to kill the bill in a face-saving way. It's not going to be filed.
Okay, well, that's what I read on the official.
Renee needs the floor.
But apologize if that information is wrong. I will correct it if I'm wrong. Something I want to pass on to you guys real quick, and I'm trying to keep it short. Senate Bill 9. Senate Bill 9 was a little controversial, but it had a lot of good critical elements. Elements that were identified in the Laura Presley case. Because, yes, elections can be stolen. And SB 9 was an effort to address some of those issues. We'd love to go into them and go into those details afterwards. There's a lot of them, but there are things such as paper ballots, backups, and counting votes at the end of the day as opposed to the end of the week. Sounds a little wonky-ish, but it can make a big difference because that's how you can steal an election. And and conclusion, next one. So I skipped this ahead because I'm trying to keep this short. All the other bills, or the other items that we spoke about, they kind of went the way they went. There's nothing really big happening with those other ones. I wanted to mention a couple of things here. House Bill 2754, the Sandra Bland bill. I don't know how many of y'all are aware of this bill. It was not one of our legislative priorities, but it should be. Because this bill would have made a police officer taking someone in, or made it harder for a police officer to take someone in for a Class C misdemeanor, which is what Sandra Bland was brought in for. Right. There's a lot of confusion. I'm still trying to unwind it because there was a bit of a floor fight over this bill and it wound up not getting passed. I mention this because I'm hoping that we consider supporting something like this in 2021. And lastly, I didn't get it on here. I didn't quite know how to get it on here. There was a House resolution intended to allow an electronic sworn statement to be made from the offices of the representatives or state senators so that disabled people can make a statement so they can speak to bills without having to physically be in Austin. There was a lot of support for it, but unfortunately it didn't go. I'm hoping that's something that we consider supporting in 2021. Are there any questions? Yeah. I will be active on forums, bringing these things up. I hope to keep you guys engaged. There's a lot to go through, lots of work.
Thank you, Renee.
Thank you. I think it was.
Motion to adjourn?
No, you're not recognized. I'm recognized Gary. Gary has moved to adjourn. Is there a second? Is there any objections to adjourning?
Sure.
Why?
All in favor of adjourning, raise your hand. All opposed?
We're adjourned.
Put your name badges on the table.